All right, good evening. It's Insight Tonight, and tonight we want to get as much insight as we can possibly cram in the short time that we have into the nation of Azerbaijan and the relationship between that wonderful country and Kenya. You might be surprised to know that the people of Azerbaijan love tea just like we do. The only difference is that they don't sweeten their tea with sugar like we do. They do it with jam, and they make jam with virtually everything, including flowers, if I'm told.
Oh.
You know, that's Azerbaijan for you. They love food. There's a diversity of food over there. Their national dish, believe it or not, is the pancake, but not your regular flapjack pancake. It's a special kind of pancake stuffed with meats and all kinds of spices, and it's absolutely delectable. This country is also the country known to have the highest number of volcanoes, mud volcanoes, believe it or not. It's a landlocked country, ladies and gentlemen, yet it has about 700 kilometers of coastline of the biggest inland water body in the world, the Caspian Sea, in that section. All of that. Have you ever seen beaches like the ones we have in Mombasa with white sands, but this time with black sands? Have you ever imagined that? Can you imagine a country where you can take a bath with crude oil and it's supposed to have some benefits for you? This is a country whose capital city is a capital city of contrasts. Baku has an old town that when you step in there immediately transforms you back into an age of amazing, amazing sights and wonders. And when you step out of it, there's 3 buildings circulating around the old town of Baku, and they're called the Towers of Fire. It's a land of fire. That's another name. Tonight we have the ambassador of this great country. We have Mr. Sultan Hajiyev. Karibu sana.
Asante san. Nina furaha kuwa hapa.
Oh my goodness, I wish I understood how to speak your language. It would have been great.
You'll get there, I'm sure.
I will get there very soon. First of all, talk to me about this great country. Just before we began the interview, he was telling me that he's actually from the old town. Those of us who are watching us from Mombasa, the old town, can you imagine the old town of Baku? He's from there, and you still have some roots there.
Yeah, very true. My house is still there, but let me first say that after such an appetizing introduction, I really feel challenged. It's difficult for me to match the level of energy and passion that you have shown in introducing my country, for which I'm very, very grateful.
It's a wonderful
I also appreciate
country.
this invitation, and I'm happy to be here. Yes, indeed. Azerbaijan is a country very far away, but there are certain commonalities between more or less all the countries in the world. You mentioned quite a number of landmarks. The old city, which used to be the cradle, the beginning of what is currently known as Baku,
yes,
is still one of the pearls, one of the kind of magnets that is attracting tourists from all over the world, and it's a very famous destination, which is also part of UNESCO's heritage location.
Right.
But Azerbaijan has so much more to offer than
Yes,
just the inner city itself, which is, as I said, is a touristic destination full of museums, restaurants, cafes, souvenir shops. But there is so much more. It's a very diverse country. You mentioned beaches. There are even ski resorts, believe it or not. But comes the winter, you can go to the mountains, and
Wow.
we have some of the most advanced, very sophisticated ski resorts,
Wow.
also inviting a lot of visitors. My country, you mentioned history, saying the country's been around for quite a long time, which is true. Actually, my country was the very first democratic republic in that part of the world. In
That's
the
right.
Caucasus, was established in 1918.
1918,
Unfortunately,
yes.
it only existed for 2 years.
Right.
Because the Red Army invaded Azerbaijan, and we became part of the Soviet
of the USSR.
Exactly. We regained our independence in the early 90s. Unfortunately, first years of independence have been marred by conflict with neighboring Armenia because of the territorial claims.
Right.
It was the area known as Karabakh.
Yeah, Nagorno-Karabakh.
Yes, well, it's Karabakh, and for 28 years our lands were occupied, as confirmed by the UN Security Council resolutions. Despite our efforts to find a compromise, there was no solution found up until 2020, when the second war started. Azerbaijan has liberated its territories. We're now undertaking massive reconstruction rehabilitation program, which is also going in line with large-scale humanitarian demining. But we look into the future for peace and partnership. We do want to leave the difficult luggage of the past behind.
Absolutely.
Because there is so much to lose in conflict, and there is so much to gain in peace and cooperation. And I believe my country has made major progress in establishing such ties and partnerships all over the world. We are now focusing on Africa. Actually, that's the reason we have decided to further strengthen our excellent relations with Kenya. As they say, Nialanguni kukimarisha uhusiano kati ya nchi zetu. So najaribu Swahili pole pole.
Unajaribu na unafanya vizuri.
It's not as rahisi as I wish it was.
Oh yeah?
Because time wakati is an issue. Shughuli mingi.
Shughuli nyingi.
Going back to the main issue.
But you're doing well. I must congratulate you for that.
I'm trying.
You're trying.
I should do so much better.
Unafanya vizuri kweli.
Asante sana. But going back to the issue discussed, we are looking forward for partnerships because we believe there are a lot of fursas, there are a lot of opportunities, and I believe we can harness those opportunities in the best interest of the people of Kenya and Azerbaijan. And the opportunities are really, some of them are like writings on the wall. You mentioned tea, very true. My country and my people are very tea-loving people, and I can tell you that whenever I travel back to Azerbaijan, one request that I'm always hearing from friends and family, they're like, can you please bring some tea and coffee?
Yes, indeed.
But I feel it's unfair that it's accessible only for the selected few. I believe more people should be having this access. And other features that I do see as a major promising avenue of partnership and cooperation is tourism. I have to admit that during my first year, and I'm the very first ambassador of Azerbaijan, as I've mentioned, already during my first year in Kenya, I was confined to Nairobi because of my schedule. I mean, I traveled abroad, but I never traveled to the regions. Last month, I finally went to Mombasa, which is Maridadi.
Oh, great.
It's beautiful. It also has the old city, which you...
Yes, indeed.
And I was walking around. I even put something on my Twitter because it was so impressive. Like Jesus Fort, for example.
Yeah,
Yet another major landmark.
Brilliant.
Beaches are beautiful. But then I went to Masai Mara, and I have a confession to make. Actually, I was so mesmerized by Masai Mara. I even came up with this game of the word, that Masai Mara is mesmerizing. Mesmerizing.
There you go.
I went there twice in the course of 10 days.
Wow.
I spent 4 of my days there because I couldn't stop. I went there first with my family, and then I basically came back, and I was calling my friends in Baku saying it's beautiful.
You've got to come.
And I convinced them. So they just jumped on a plane.
And they came straight away.
And then we went there again.
You know what's going to happen is that the reverse is going to happen.
It should.
We want to see a situation where, like you say, in cooperation and you know, forging strong relationships of the future, we can have the reverse happening. We can have Kenyans going to Baku. For example, good people of Kenya who are watching, those of you who like to follow Formula One, Baku has been holding, there's a world-class arena, there's a world-class racetrack in Azerbaijan, and Formula One is going there in just a few days, less than a week. There should be some of the great high-octane action that you're used to. Is it going to be the Red Bull team? Is it going to be Mercedes? Is it going to be Ferrari? All of that is going to be happening in Baku. If you want to go, so how do we do that? Initially, there used to be a bit of challenge when it comes to visas. How is the situation now?
Of course, we're always happy to welcome our Kenyan friends. However, in terms of the process, it used to be a bit complicated because for Kenyans traveling to Azerbaijan, they were supposed to visit either Addis first or Ankara to obtain their visas. Not anymore, because a bit more than months ago, we started issuing visas locally here in Nairobi. Our consular department is now operating. And of course, Formula is a big attraction. It really brings together a lot of Formula fans from all over the world. And as you rightly mentioned, it will be starting in exactly 1 week. And one of the most interesting and charming aspects of Formula One in Baku is that it's a city circuit which runs straight by the walls of the old city.
Wow.
So So you see these vaults, which are like, centuries and centuries old, and right next to them fly those kind of
rockets.
Rockets, basically, and it's really, really impressive. But frankly speaking, what I appreciate about Formula even more, as much as I love racing, it's also the whole aura, the whole ambiance, because there is a lot of fun, there is a lot of entertainment, there is
culture.
Concerts, like a lot of food tasting. We have a seaside boulevard, which it's more than 10 kilometers, has just been recently further expanded, and this whole area is becoming one big platform. It's one big melting pot for people to have fun, to get entertained, and then of course to enjoy the Formula, which we are proudly hosting for a number of years. And I can tell you, I should attest that Kenyans who love Formula,
they go.
You just appealed through the camera.
Yes,
there are many.
There's so many.
And
so many.
The good thing is that if you're going for Formula, you don't even need visa, frankly speaking, because your ticket is automatically becoming a confirmation of you obtaining your visa upon arrival.
Right.
So it's even further step towards facilitating the arrangements. But with or without Formula, we're happy to welcome our Kenyan friends who are interested to visit Azerbaijan. And as I've mentioned, we're happy that visa is not an issue. And as for getting there are several options. There are several airlines. Nairobi is very well connected, so is Baku.
Yes.
So we're looking forward for more. What was tourist in Vitali, right? So tourist.
Utali.
Like Utali.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're looking forward for
watalii.
Yes.
Watalii wengi.
Yeah, watalii wengi.
So, Bwana Ambassador, ikiwa watalii wa Kenya, I want to put you on the spot here.
Okay.
Ikiwa watalii wa Kenya wangependa kwenda Baku, kuna mahitaji gani? Yani, kama masharti gani? What are the requirements to be able to get the visa? What are some of the things that are being put in place to make the process easier, apart from, of course, bringing things closer to Nairobi?
Yeah, well, of course there is a process which is mandatory for any visa issuance requirements, but it's not complicated. There are several basic documents which you're supposed to submit, including an application form which can be filled right there at the embassy. And so far, to the best of my knowledge, even so, as you know, ambassadors do not deal with issues directly.
Yes.
But to the best of my knowledge, there was not a single case of visa application rejected by our consular department. Of course, we're not talking about thousands of applications.
That's right.
So far, we're probably around 100 or so. But it's very heartening. It's something very inspiring, and we believe it's just the beginning. Speaking of big events, we've mentioned Formula, and
actually, just yes. Before we go back there, we will talk about some of those events in a second, but if we may dwell a little bit of time there's a lot of Kenyans that we've talked to that have expressed an interest in even finding economic opportunities in your country, and also Kenyans that see opportunities to have the reverse happen, business people from your country finding opportunities here. Can you talk to us about what can be put in place, or what has been put in place to be able to make these transitions and these collaborations a little better? In fact, I understand there's a Kenyan consulate being set up over there later this year, or was it early next year?
It's something that is in the making. It's pipeline, but it's something for the future. For the time being, such efforts are indeed taking place. I say Kazi Bidi. Basically, we're making this big effort to develop business, to make sure that these opportunities are revealed, identified, and are put at service of people in both countries. To be more specific, there were several delegations from Kenya which visited Azerbaijan and had a number of meetings with various government officials as well as private entities. There were a set of visits from Baku. A number of people came. They were showing extra interest to various fields because, as I mentioned, opportunities are there, from basic export-import operation to some more, long-term dedicated areas like e-governance, for example. My country is famous for oil and gas.
Yes, indeed.
not just the ones that you mentioned at the very beginning when we were talking about the special bathing procedures, which are really good for your skin, and we are famous with that. But Azerbaijan is actually one of the countries that started oil exploration at the end of 19th, early 20th
In fact,
century.
if I'm not wrong, the very first oil tanker,
which is true,
was commissioned from Baku.
True, very true. I can tell you more. Everybody knows about Nobel brothers.
Yes, the Alfred Nobel. Yes,
we have a house museum of Nobels in Baku because a Nobel's company has started making its initial fortune in Azerbaijan.
Oh, is that so?
That's why this
look at that history
there, and it's still functioning. Our oil wells are also famous because of the history. And then when the Soviet Union started exploration of oil and gas, let's say the elite, the core team, experts in the area,
they came from your country
for a very simple reason, because there was no one
You had the expertise, nobody else
knew.
knew.
Far advanced.
Ladies and gentlemen, this country at some point actually produced half of the oil that was used in the world.
True.
And I think the Second World War was won, at least the Russian bits was supplied heavily by, I think about 75% of your oil was able to, huge exports of oil and gas as well.
Well, I have to admit, I'm impressed once again, because you clearly did a bit of background.
It's a wonderful country.
No, I really appreciate it.
It's a wonderful country.
Which is true, indeed. Back then, during the Second World War, most of the petrol used by the Red Army was actually coming from Baku. That's why, for this very reason, Baku was one of the strategic destinations for the advancing army. Hitler was actually prioritizing occupation of Baku. However, those plans never came to fruition for obvious reasons. We all know the rest, but this is a thing of the history.
It's all in the past.
Forward, as I said, we're looking for partnerships and cooperations with everyone. Of course, our oil and gas reserves are still quite impressive. They cannot be compared to some of the kind of biggest oil producers, but still, it's a backbone of our economy. Yet at the same time, we're making major effort, dedicated effort to diversify.
That's right.
Investing a lot in the green energy, and there is an additional reason for that, and this reason being is one of those events that will be taking in Azerbaijan. And
COP.
I'll pass it to you. COP it is, indeed. I was mentioning Formula, but a bigger event, and with all due respect to Formula and Formula fans, it's a much more important one. Of
for our planet.
Nature, of course, will be taking place in Azerbaijan in November. That's COP29, the Conference of Parties. This is a huge responsibility. It's a huge honor for us to be hosting this event. My government is currently working with a wide range of partners to make sure that it's transparent, that it's impartial, that it's inclusive. We have set a number of important priorities. We want to make sure that we are enhancing ambitions, and at the same time we are enabling actions. And we're working with all the regions very actively. And let me also mention that Kenya is playing a very important role on climate change action agenda. In Africa, you hosted very successful climate summit, African Climate Summit last year. His Excellency President Ruto is heading Special Commission of the African Union, heads of states and governments on climate change, and your negotiator on climate issues, Mr. Ali Mohammed, is also chairing the African Negotiators Group. So we believe Kenya has a very important role to play, including at the forthcoming COP29.
All right. Now, because I mean, as an ambassador, you are an ambassador of many things. There's the politics side, there's a business, there's a culture, and every other thing. I want you to share something with us. I want you to share with us 5 things that you've found in Kenya that have absolutely blown your mind. And I want you to talk to a Kenyan out there who's listening and wondering, this country that I'm hearing all these wonderful things about, give them 5 things that are guaranteed to blow their minds if they decide to visit Baku.
Okay, so I'm talking about the things that they will be impressed with if they go to Baku.
If they go, and then you tell them what you are impressed with. Don't say Masai Mara, because you've already told us that.
No, we're done with Masai Mara. Let me actually, with your permission, start in reverse. Let me start with things that impressed me, and they were really mind-boggling in terms of my discoveries here in Kenya. And I'm really sincere in saying that the very first, the biggest one, probably the platform for all the rest, are Kenyans themselves. I mean, you know, I've been around. I used to work for United Nations before.
Yes.
So it's easy for me to count number of countries that I have not visited than those that I've been to.
Visited.
And I can tell you that Kenyans are really, to me, they are among the best in terms of being very sincere, being very cordial. I don't want to generalize. There are difficult people in any nation, in any place.
That's right.
But I would say the genuine smiles that you enjoy when you talk to someone, it doesn't matter. Can be very high-level government official, can be just a guy who is helping you with parking.
Yes.
And it comes from his heart. And they don't expect anything in return. If you want to be nice to people, they're happy. If not, they're still happy. And I think this is really important. It's something to be cherished and to be preserved and to be passed from generation to generation. The country is very diverse. At the same time, it's very tolerant. It's yet another issue that I would like to emphasize, because my country, even though it's predominantly Muslim country, it's also very secular, and we take pride in being tolerant and respecting representatives of all the religions. Your wildlife, without singling out Masai Mara, and your nature in general, is yet another thing. Let me also mention the country's potential, because potential is definitely there. Some of it is harnessed, some of it is yet to be harnessed. And as a very last thing, because this one will be playing on both sides for both teams, I have to say that Chakula Hika Kitamu Sana. So it's something which is adding to my perennial struggle of keeping myself properly fit. In a way, sometimes I'm failing, sometimes I'm not. But your food is very nice, seriously. Wonderful. And it's also very diverse. Wonderful. And particularly your seafood, I would say Chakula Baharia.
Yes, Chakula Baharia.
Now, if we move to my country, I've mentioned food already. Our food is also quite delicious,
yes, indeed.
Quite inviting. I'll stop here because I know as much as you want to talk about food, people will only believe you when they will taste
when they see it.
And I'll leave it to them.
The proof of the pudding is in the eating.
That's it. Very true. And food, well, I could come up with a long list of Azerbaijani dishes that can replace the word pudding in this particular saying.
All
but
right.
Again, I will leave it to the hands-on or mouth-in experience that hopefully many Kenyans will experience. Yeah. Of course, culture. You mentioned Old City. There are a lot of places I don't even know where to start. From the Temple of Fire Worshippers to the Carpet Museum, from on-rock paintings of Gobustan, which go back really thousands and thousands of years. It's one of the very interesting archaeological attractions. Music, art, there is really a lot, and it will keep you busy for quite some time. Even so, Azerbaijan is not as big as Kenya in terms of the territory, but it's also very diverse. So if someone goes to Baku, there is a distinction to be made. You either went to Baku or you went to Azerbaijan, because visiting Baku is not equaling visiting Azerbaijan. There are so many beautiful places. Like, for example, one of the jewels of our crown is the town of Shusha, which recently hosted International Media Forum.
Yes.
I mean, we have forests, we have mountains that I've mentioned, there are lakes, there are springs. So it's something to really discover in person. Then I was already mentioning us hosting quite a number of international events, sporting events. First European Olympics took place in our country. It's also a land of business opportunities, just like Kenya is when it comes to biashara.
Yes.
I don't know if I've passed the threshold of 5. I think I'm standing at 4, but I'll leave it here because leave it there because I can come up with another 10.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, you did very well. Yeah. Now, Mr. Ambassador, clearly your country, small as it is much bigger than the time that we have to discuss it. And the conversation around cooperation and relationship, again, is much longer than the time that we have. But just before I let you go for this time, until next time, I want you to look into this camera right behind me. And I want you, from your heart, a message to the people. Any message you have from your heart. There you go.
Well, I mean, what can I say? I'll partially repeat what I've said already. You have beautiful country. Cherish it. Make sure it's continuing development, and your friends will be happy to celebrate with you. And if any of the partnerships and cooperations that we hope, that we aspire to build with Kenya can contribute even a bit to that prosperity, to that development, to those achievements, we'll be very happy.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. And hopefully some of you will be traveling to Azerbaijan to enjoy all the diverse beauties and experiences that are filling that country right now. Thank you so much for coming.
So. Thank you for inviting.
You'll come again. Absolutely.
Say Tuanane Badai.
Tuanane Badai.
Yeah,
how do you say it in your language?
It will be a bit complicated. I'll give you a simpler version. You just say Sağol. Sağol. Sağol means goodbye.
Sağol.
If you say I'll see you again, is yeni görüşene dek, but it will be a bit complicated. So,
all right, good people of Kenya, Sağol, yeni görüşene dek, something like that. Tutonana badai. God bless you, and thank you so much, sir.
Asante sana.
All right.
Thank you.